Hey, it's the right weekend and TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And this Friday, I'm just gonna go through some of one of the things I normally do on Fridays. I just go through a couple different stories that maybe weren't touched, or it's just stuff that interests me. So let's begin. Let's start with this story. Let's go to my screen share and let's make me a little bigger. um, Here we go. Here's from the New York Post. Highly inappropriate journalism group rips. Highly inappropriate journalism group rips Chris Cuomo CNN over strategy talks with governor's brother. Now, here, that's what was something. Okay, let me just click here real quick. I just want to remind people how now there was this whole clip of Cuomo's Chris saying he didn't want to. He wasn't going to cover Andrew's um, sexual harassment allegations. But you know what? Never mind. I'm just going to talk about it. But of course, if everyone remembers, actually, you know what? Let me just Google that one. Um, let's see. Uh, Cuomo big Q-tip. Let's see. I think that's the one I wanna. Let's see if there's an image of it. I'll walk you guys if you have not seen it. um, here's the image that the Chris put up when he was talking to his brother Andrew, and so on my complaint about the media is here is concrete evidence of the bias of CNN. Okay, if this if this was someone on Fox News, if it was someone on OANN or Newsmax, there'd be cries of that person should be fired if they were, let's say, doing something like this with Trump. Okay. But this is not what's happening to Chris. And you know what? I don't want him fired. I'm not saying that he should be fired because at the end of the day, that's his brother. But we know the bias of CNN. I mean, they used to have they used to be more center, more moderate. I mean, they did have people like Lou Dobbs and um, Glenn Beck and stuff like that. They did have people that were conservative, but not anymore. So all I want is for news media to admit their bias. And none of this nonsense that that um, bias news is biased to the left because the left tells the truth. It's like, no, here's a situation where the left didn't what's going on here, that he just didn't do. He got The only reason he's apologizing, the only reason he apologized for this is because he got busted. That's about it. So um, you know, hold up for I gotta pause this for 1 second. Sorry about that. It's what happens when you have kids. um, they just sometimes interrupt and you have to stop. So because my train of thought is gone, I'll just go on to the next story. And suspect arrested and charged with hate crime assaults after anti-Semitic attacks in Manhattan. Footage of the violence was uploaded to social media with pro-Palestinian protesters seen yelling "F you Jews." And it's crazy, 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 um, crazy week of attacks against Jews all across this country. It's it's really sad, really, really sad. And the cover that the media does, because like they say, news has the left wing bias, and here's where the left wing bias comes into play when you see the coverage of these attacks. It's like, you see the coverage of the Israeli Palestinian conflict and you see how one sided it is. But yeah, so this guy was the person was caught, and I mean, it's crazy. Not only did they attack people, not only were they yelling at people, they threw like fire, like high grade fireworks at a group of Jews. It was gross. Let me see if this is one of the good videos. I just don't. You know what? I'm gonna mute it because I'm not sure if there's any curses. But want to see. Let's see if they show. Well, that's the people yelling. Okay. Oh, here's the video of thing. I guess you can see the fire bomb, whatever. Ah, damn it! It's I was trying to avoid that, but there you go. At least Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo condemned it. Is um, the bozo. He's not there, so that's a good thing that this person was caught. And maybe these people, well, can't free. They got freedom of speech, but this is not freedom of speech right here. So good thing that they caught this person. And here's another story. Uh, what's it? Jen Psaki admits the Biden administration is dropping off migrant kids in cities without notifying officials. So let's see. Can we? It's from the Post Millennial. They do good reporting. Let's see if I could. Let's see if I just played a quick clip of it.
As well. Quickly on immigration, the governor of Tennessee says that he was asked and he declined a Biden administration request to house unaccompanied minors. And in coming days or in recent days, there have been some reports that at least 4 planes filled with unaccompanied minors landed in his state, some in the middle of the night. Can you explain what's going on there?
Well, as we have been very clear about, children, our objective is to unite these unaccompanied children under the age of 18, with families, with sponsor families. So children have been traveling through Tennessee. They're simply on their way to unite with relatives and sponsors, to meet sponsors in the state, or just traveling through Tennessee until they reach another destination to unite with family members or legal sponsors. As you know, geographically, it's right in a place where there's a lot of states around it, so it's a place where some flights have gone through as children are moving to other destinations.
And since this was something that the governor of the state said he didn't want, this is not a case of federal officials trying to sneak something past the state level officials.
I think I'm confirming here that Tennessee is a state that is right near in the middle of the country, and some kids have to travel through there to get through their destination. And we've been very clear that our objective is to treat these kids humanely, get them to
blah blah. Okay, well, you can see. So they're sending kids to Tennessee. We don't know if that's the final day. Well, she's not. It's a yes or no. It's not really yes or no, but she's kind of saying that it's not their final destination, and it could be. So it's kind of being vague. But yes, they're doing this in spite of what the governor of Tennessee wants, and it's just something that what can you do about it? The Biden administration wanted open borders, so to speak, and they're not doing any. Instead of continuing policies that were working, because if you're objective, you will see that Trump's policies were working. That's why we weren't getting so many people. So many people stopped going. You're never going to stop the flow completely, but if you have a secure border and you don't have policies where you let the people come here, the stay in Mexico policy was an awesome policy, because you know what, if people were really serious about claiming asylum and not just economic refugees, they would do that. They would just stay in Mexico till their case is adjudicated, and then they could get their case heard and get a yes or no. But That no, they want to just be able to come here and that's it. So and I just this is found interesting because the one of the sane Democrats, there's not many left. She calls, Tulsi Gabbard calls on Biden Harris to demand Chicago mayor resign over her anti-white racism. Um, if no one's heard this, um, Lori Lightfoot, right? That's her name, Lightfoot. Yes, there you go. She said that she would only do interviews with reporters that are people of color. Honestly, I think as much as she's saying that this is about inclusivity and diversity, I really think this is her way of uh, controlling the narrative and her way of avoiding answering real questions with the horrible job she's done as the mayor of Chicago. And heads up to Tulsi Gabbard for calling for her resignation for doing these type of diversity and inclusion stuff where you're excluding uh, another race is just racism. Anti-white racism. I love that term, even though I just think at the end of the day, racism is racism. Just because the left try to add power dynamics, racism is racism. Okay, you could call it prejudice. Prejudice to me is a lesser form of racism because you have your prejudice against a certain, let's say for example, um, I have a friend of mine was his sister was raped, and he had a thing against Dominicans after that ever since because a Dominican raped his sister. So that's a prejudice, but there's a prejudice, but there's a story behind it. When you just don't like someone, just let's say I don't like a Dominican just because they're Dominican. There's nothing. I don't know nothing about the person. The people have never done anything to me. That's racism. I'm just using an ethnicity as an example because I don't want to use black, white, Asian, whatever, because then it's like, oh, you're being racist by showing an example of racism. At least I'm just using an ethnicity as being one Latino to another. Um, so I really hope she runs for Senate in Hawaii. I hope she challenges one of, especially what's her name, Hanoni, whatever her. She really needs to be challenged. I hope she gets challenges her and runs for Senate. Uh, so, anyways, let's move on because this one I saved this one for the end because this is it's a pretty long story. This is um, This is a Substack article of Glenn Greenwald, and he's a liberal reporter, but he is at least honest with his opinions. He doesn't hold back just because the fact that his side is not going to like him. And it goes here: corporate media's double standard. They attack whomever they want, but you cannot criticize them, which is bingo. And you know, if you don't know Glenn Greenwald, he started the interesting thing here is he started this newspaper, this publication called The Intercept. He helped start it and basically ended up leaving it because they were trying to control what he was saying because they didn't like some of the stuff that he was reporting on, and he basically quit and started doing this. And kudos to him for doing that because it takes courage, it takes cojones to do that. And it goes here. I just want to read some of the stuff from the. I don't want to. It's a long article. I'll probably. You know what? I'll put a link to it in the description for whoever wants to read it. But um, let's see. Where do I want to start? Okay. Let me just go here where see it goes here. My response is this is his thing. My response is to the Washington Post's article and Daily Beast questions about accusations from the Intercept. I have endangered their writers because but here, what it basically boils down to is here it goes depicting critics of liberal orthodoxies as mentally ill, rage driven bullies, and shadows of their former selves is a longtime tactic of guardians of establishment liberalism to expel dissidents from their group circles. A lengthy 2003 New Yorker smear job on Norm Chomsky headlined The Devil's Accountant at the time when he was a rare and vocal critic of post 9/11 US foreign policy. Described how Chomsky was once a credible voice, but sadly now has become increasingly alienated from the mainstream because he has no ideas to offer. Chomsky's thinking has grown simplistic and rigid, the author wrote. She quoted Christopher Hitchens as saying that while he once admired Chomsky's stable ideology and noble commitment to principle, he is now going basically insane, describing his views of the war in Afghanistan as the glim of utter lunacy piercing through. Um, the article also claimed that while Chomsky's criticism of Israel have alienated his liberal following, it has caused him to become popular in the far right anti Semitic circles. The fact that this article from 2003, that the irony behind that is like, now critics of Israel are now really far left. You have, you know, Talib and Ohan and AOC and all those other members of the squad. And it goes here. The article also described Chomsky as an angry bully prone to outbursts of rage against female colleagues to the point of making them cry, being humorless, and in general just plagued by mental pathologies which account for his unwillingness to accept liberal pieties. Sound familiar? In 2018, I compiled many of those personality driven and health mental health smears that have been weaponized back against Norm Chomsky because at the time other liberal outlets such as the New Yorker and New York Magazine were already using the same mental health and personality based themes to expel me from the precincts of liberal decency due to my rejection of their Russia Gate conspiracy theories, which had turned into a virtual religion, including at the Intercept. And that's the whole thing. If you believe in the whole Russiagate scandal, I'm sorry you've been watching too much of CNN and especially MSNBC and too much Joy Reid or Rachel Maddow. Uh, so I'm just this is he goes here. This is a tweet from him. This is repulsive. The Intercept was founded during the Snowden story to defend privacy rights and oppose the security state. Now the liberal DNC hacks who edit it are boasting they got personal data from Gab users and are sorting through it, doing FBI's work to find extremists. So I mean, you could just see that is going hand in hand with the between uh, the media. The media is doing government job in some senses here. So, but at the end is that's the double standard. The media, the media has their bias, and that's why I'm kind of ending where I began. And the media, the liberal media bias. If you don't believe that there's a liberal media bias, is because you can't admit that it's your own bias. And like I said, I I admit my bias. I'm libertarian leading, right leaning, whatever you want to call me, conservative, whatever you want to call me, that's my leaning. And I read those news reports. But at the same time, I will use CNN, I will use MSNBC, I will read that stuff. I don't not read it. I just read it with a grain of salt. And I go, okay, I know they're biased. So let's see where I can find truth between what they're trying to say. At the end of the day, that's all you could do. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. And it's Friday, and I'm done. I'm spent. um, so hope you guys have a good weekend. If you see me make a video this weekend, it's probably because something big happened. And that's always the case. So, anyways, you can follow me on YouTube and Rumble. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Gab. All right. Well, have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.